Oh, and then he peeled out of the parking lot and almost hit two people on the way
Nice,
out. So
dude.
that was tight. What a piece of
I
shit.
can't. I'm telling you, man. I think there's a level of classiness that, like, it's too high on average. So personally, I appreciate this guy,
Yeah, bringing it
making
back
it.
down.
Yeah, yeah, because let's be real about it. Like, everyone should probably just be pieces of shit all the time,
Yeah, constantly
because
to everyone.
just like fuck it, man. I mean, what do you have to gain from
Yeah,
being cool to people? Pretty much
right?
nothing
Yeah,
ever.
nothing except feeling good about yourself.
No, no, overrated.
I took a lease out on your heart. I took a lease out on your heart. Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun?
Welcome back, everybody. We are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience, and together we are on a quest for Dynasty Domination. How's it going over there, Daniel?
Feeling good, dude. Hitting the week 5 slump, just living life,
Yeah.
letting the fantasy leagues meld together, enjoying, just whatever joy comes from them. Wins, losses cancel out as long as we're having fun.
That's
How are you
fair.
doing, Christian?
I'm doing good, man. Fairly decent in fantasy this year. 0 and 4 and for the belt, so that hurts my heart. But
It's
other than
brutal.
that, doing pretty well. Got a friggin' fantasy basketball league that
What?
I gotta do a
That's a
draft
whole nother
for.
podcast.
Oh my God. Yeah, I gotta save that for the I don't know, what would Rough Draft Basketball League? Doesn't matter, because we're here, we're back. Rough Draft Research Dynasty podcast, uh,
Football.
football podcast, no basketball. So we are here. Sorry, if the energy's a little low. I am fairly tired, this week, but we are still here. We're gonna hit you with some more new segments. We've been doing that all year, and we're gonna hit you with a few more, and I'm pretty excited about it. But first, we got to hit you with the rookie roundup because that's where
Yes.
we start
Yes.
every single week. And last week I made an effort to shorten it up, and we're going to continue that trend this week. So I moved some names around. Some more people got banished to the clear backup role, and here soon I'm going to make a new category that's going to be the see you next year category. And then I'm just going to
Ooh.
stop talking about these guys entirely. But until then, for now, I'm going to mention all these names. So on the injured and active spots, we've got Rasheen Ali, Jonathan Brooks, Audric Estime, Devon Valet, and Marshawn Lloyd. They are all still injured. No news from them. And then moving on to the clear backups category, the names that are carrying over from last week: Tyrone Tracy, Jermaine Burton, Malachi Corley, Ben Sinnott, Michael Penix Jr., Drake May, Jalen Wright, who did see a little bit of more work, but nothing really to write home about, so I'm going to keep him here. Troy Franklin, Javon Baker, Sion Vakai, Trey Benson, Jalen McMillan, Jalen Polk, Adonai Mitchell, Jatavion Sanders, and Ray Davis. Now, here are some names, though, that got pulled from promising usage into clear backup territory. So, Theo Johnson, ton of snaps,
Yep.
playing all the time, but he has 6 targets through 4 games. I just think that's a clear indicator of his status, at least in that offense. Like maybe he's a starter because he's on the field all the time, but he's not a fantasy viable, at least not right now. Um, Carson Steele got knocked into this category. He got negative zero point 0.4 points this week and
Yeesh.
18% snap share after looking good last week. And I'm sorry, Kareem Hunt at 29 years old or wherever he's at is not doing this to a legit running back. So just to me, the fact that he came in and immediately made Carson Steele forgotten about means that's exactly what Carson Steele is. He's a decent backup. He's going to be good to have, but he's not going to be fantasy viable really ever unless it's like one of those situations where it's directly after an injury. But apparently the Chiefs want to bring somebody in even if that happens. So he moves down here. And then Luke McCaffrey. I tried to keep giving it to him, but 44% snap share with only one target. That's a few weeks now of like middling production. I think he had a decent week last week, but it's just overall, I think he's in that clear backup territory for sure. And then AJ Barner is a new addition to the list who wasn't even really on the list. He got his first touchdown this week, but he only had two targets. And I think he's still clearly like a backup tight end in Seattle, but he did make an appearance, so I wanted to mention his name. So moving on to the promising usage category. We have Bucky Irving, who saw the same amount of rushing attempts as Rashad White with 10, both getting 49 yards, and Bucky Irving having a touchdown, 12.5 fantasy points. I expect his usage to start to even ramp up even more and really become a dual threat in that running back room for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Braylon Allen stays here, a little bit less effective for 2 weeks in a row now, but 8 attempts and a target is pretty good. He's stealing some work from Brees Hall. Keon Coleman, 73% snap share, and he had 3 catches for 51 yards. Is pretty decent. You'd like to see a little more get going, but they did have the Bills, that is, had a fairly bad week against the Ravens, so it is what it is. Jordan Whittington, 12 fantasy points, 97% snap share, and 8 targets, 6 catches, 62 yards. So that was good to see from him. Now he almost certainly will disappear once Puka and Cooper Kupp are healthy. But for now, he can kind of be useful, and you could maybe get a little bit of decent work out of him. Um, Xavier Legette scored his first touchdown of his career. He also had 10 targets for 6 catches, 66 yards. The Red Rifle making him a viable fantasy threat right now. So it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on that. Lad McConkey stays in promising usage. He had a good week. Really, really nice back of the end zone catch for a touchdown this week. 7 targets, 5 catches, 67 yards. I still just think the offense up there is not really structured right now to have a superstar or a stud. But Lad McConkey looks good. He looks like the consistent weapon that I thought he could be for Justin Herbert so far, which is nice. Xavier Worthy stays down here, 16 points, 73% snap share, 4 targets, 3 catches, 73 yards, and a touchdown. Long bomb touchdown, like 60 something yards. And I guess that's kind of my point is that great. We've seen him have 2 big weeks with touchdowns, but he's never had more than 4 targets in a game. And I just don't think that kind of lends to a stud. It lends to a boomer bust guy. Now, with Rashee Rice gone, does he take the next leap and kind of start to get a little more traction? We will see. But as for now, I think he's still just in promising usage. And then Eric All still kicking around in the promising usage category for the tight ends. Not a lot of snaps, 34%, but 4 targets for 4 catches and 28 yards. More than Mike Gesicki did this week. So it's at least worth mentioning. Anybody you want to touch on before we move on to possible studs?
No, no, I like it.
Okay, perfect. So possible studs. Now, this one might be controversial, but I'm gonna leave him here for one more week. I don't want to bounce these guys back and forth too fast. But Romo Dunze with Keenan Allen back only gets 2 points, 3 targets, 1 catch for 10 yards. Not what you
Yeesh.
want to see after a big game. But they did use the running game a lot more. DeAndre Swift was the leader in receiving yards as well as rushing yards. So kind of just a weird game script. So we'll move on from there. Uh, into 3 wide receivers that just honestly look phenomenal right now. Brian Thomas Jr., 76% share, 9 targets, 6 catches for 86 yards and a touch. And that's with Trevor Lawrence playing pretty up and down. Um, so it's good to see him. I think they've really found one. I think you were right about this. It was a guy I wasn't necessarily in on, but a guy you were banging the table for, and I think you were accurate on this one.
Nailed it.
Uh, Marvin Harrison Jr., 16 points, 92% snap share, 5 catches, 45 yards, and a touchdown. Started out hot, touchdown on the first drive, and then kind of disappeared after a while. Um, but he clearly is the guy in Arizona, especially when McBride's not on the field. So he has already earned that role and is going to be there for a while, I imagine. And then Malik Neighbors, my God, has just been taking the league by storm. 90% snap share, 23 points on the day, 15 targets, 12 receptions, and 115 yards this week. He did go out with a concussion. Hopefully, he can play this week to continue this streak because, I mean, he is just on an absolute absurd level and is the wide receiver one in fantasy right now. So, you literally could not ask for more out of Malik Neighbors if you drafted him. So he's got to be in the possible studs. Honestly, he might have to get put in just stud category here soon because he's absurd right now. And then two back-to-back little quiet weeks for Brock Bowers. Only 5 points, 81% snaps, 3 targets, 2 catches. But that was with no Adams. That was with a banged up Raiders team going up against a decent Browns defense. Hopefully they can get him back to where he was the first couple weeks, because it was a little bit of a tease of what we could see out of him. And now for 2 weeks in a row, he's been fairly meh. But that's kind of just the tight ends as a whole. So
Sure.
it seems appropriate. Anything you want to touch on the studs before we move on to the QBs?
No, him with the QBs.
Alrighty, so the QB review. Caleb Williams, 10 points this week. Not a lot going on. He did throw a touchdown, 157 yards. But like I said, the game script was more about running the ball. And it just kind of, I don't know. He's been still inconsistent. I feel like every time I watch, he's missing some pretty crazy throws, but we're starting to see him a little bit heat up, and the Bears have won 2 games in a row. So I can't really argue with the results, I suppose, but we'd like to see more out of him, especially with a guy we're going to talk up here coming up, playing the way he's playing. But
Mm.
first, we got to talk about Bo Nix. Blow Nix had seven
Ooh.
points, 60 yards and a touchdown. Now, to be fair, game-winning touchdown for what it's worth. He hit Cortland Sutton in the back of the end zone. But I mean, just awful. At one point, he had -7 passing yards at halftime. It's just, I don't know. I don't think he's looked very good. I don't think the Broncos are very good. It's absurd to me that they beat the Jets, but here we are, and hopefully he can improve. Um, but Jaden Daniels is even blowing our expectations out of the water
Yeah.
for what we thought. I mean, he has the highest completion percentage in NFL history through 4 games, which is just absurd for a rookie. And he's the QB1 in fantasy, which, yeah, that means we have a rookie at QB1 and wide receiver one, which is just pretty crazy. He was 26 of 30 this week for 233 yards, another touchdown added on the ground, and he did throw his first pick of the year, but it did not seem to matter as they demolished the Cardinals 42-14. And he is as advertised. And there's not a lot to say about him other than the sky's the limit. And
Hey,
man, really should have, if you got him in Superflex Dynasty, man, you were feeling great right now.
I'm feeling very good. Him and Neighbors in a super flex rookie draft. And between that and Brian Thomas, the legitimate stud university of LSU is looking pretty sharp right now, man.
They
It's
really are. Came
it's
in,
impressive.
yeah, came in hot. They look good.
Yeah, I really, side tangent. I really expect that Cardinals Washington game to be a little cooler than that, but
Yeah,
it went well for the Commanders. But
that's fair.
Bo Nix, man, I was really hoping that guy could do something, but I don't know. These rookies are getting exciting. They are really definitely starting to separate.
Hmm.
A few of them separating from the pack in a big way. It would be cool to see Brock Bowers turn on the Jets,
That'd be
and
nice.
keep it going.
It would be
Because
nuts. He could make that fantasy tight end one status, and then we'd have rookie, rookie, rookie. Man, be
he's in the
wild.
running. I mean,
Hmm.
he's definitely in the running. I mean, we're doing top 12 this week, and we're talking about tight ends. So
Woof.
It's not very pretty, that's for damn sure.
Mm.
Um, but I don't know. I'm gonna get into it.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, every week we're doing top 12 of each position, and we finally got to the bottom here at the tight end room.
Mm.
And it's pretty interesting. We're gonna go through a couple highlights and see how we feel about the tight ends so far through the year. I definitely have to launch this discussion. If you were with us last week, we did wide receivers, and the wide receivers, through 3 weeks, there were 32 different wide receivers landing on the top 36. That's insane. That means like 78% of the list were single game type guys.
Mm.
It's a little better with the tight ends. The single game guys are only 54%. So it's a lot lower of the single outing guys. There's 26 of them. We've got 8 guys that have done it twice,
Mm.
and this has a nice little pocket of 3 game gentlemen. There's 2 of them, Dallas Goddard and George Kittle. So, congratulations to those guys. But I mean, the long and short of it is the tight end is coming around to be a kind of pretty consistent position this year.
Mm.
And I, for one, appreciate that because when you're chasing these wide receiver 1 weeks and it's just a rotating, list, it's a little frustrating. But tight ends, they got their reliability levels for you. The guys that have done it twice are Bowers, McBride, Gesicki, Ertz, Pat Fryermuth, Ferguson, Kincaid, and Otten. Yeah, and I'm going last names only, so get at me. Um, but yeah, that's kind of a strange list when you consider maybe some expectations going into the year. There's some aces that are really letting us down with
Mm.
single game outings on the list. And that includes Travis Kelsey.
Mm.
You may have heard of him. Mark Andrews only has 1 game on the list.
Mm.
Kyle Pitts only has 1 game. And then Sam Laporta, tight end 8 in
Woof.
week 1. I'm not calling a tie for tight end 12 with Austin Hooper as qualifying, okay? You're out for week 4. I just want you to know that from me, Sammy. We need you.
Yeah.
We need you. I need you to be saying Brock Bowers who level up, do something. So, with all that in mind, I'll roll through the season long average. The top guys for the full season. No surprise, Goddard and Kittle are at the top.
Makes
Three
sense.
games in the top 12 is going to do that. And you were saying, man, Bowers, he's in
Right in
striking
there.
position. Yeah, he's at the tight end 3, and his score on the year is 43 fantasy points,
Mm.
and Goddard's at 54.
Mm.
So he can get there a couple of big weeks, he could
Yeah.
close that gap.
Wouldn't be crazy.
No, man. But then you've got Cole Kmet as the tight end 4. He's only had it 1 top 12 game, so that's a little bit of spiciness right there.
Hmm.
Fryermuth is at 5. I kind of like that. I feel like I called that a little bit, and
Hmm.
I'm happy about it. No one else there to catch the ball, so it's working out. Isaiah Likely at number 6, and now he only has 1 top finish, but that finish was, that week 1 number 1. And similar to Komet, who was tight end 4, he only has 1 top 12, but it was a number 2 in week 3. So these blow up weeks are landing these guys on season average heights. So just something to keep an eye on. Kincaid's at 7, tied with McBride. Skip down to 9. You got Zach Ertz, then Jake Ferguson at 10, and then a pair of single game top 12ers to round it out with Tucker Craft at tight end 11, followed by Travis Kelsey
Hmm.
at tight end 12. And those 2 guys were top 3 in week 4, which put them on the map. So it's kind of like some boomer bust names, but then also a really good blend of consistency as well. So it's kind of exciting, but still kind of comforting to have the reliability.
Hmm.
And surprising names. I mean, Isaiah Likely for sure.
Mm,
Tucker Craft, obviously, it's got its own little spin on it for
yeah.
those Luke Musgrave chasers,
Well, that
uh,
dream is dead.
for sure.
Um, Tucker Craft outsnapped him like 70% to 20 something percent this week. That was something you called when they both got drafted. I let
Hell
my
yeah.
love for Musgrave and his athletic ability blind me, apparently. But yeah, I mean, Kraft is just, he's not, I don't know. He's like one of those guys that, like, it doesn't look crazy, crazy exciting, but he just does everything so well. And he's just consistent and hard to stop. And I don't see him going away. I think the tight end room, as disappointing as it has been, will kind of even out. I mean, I think Dallas Goedert will come back to earth once AJ Brown and Devonta Smith are back. And then Tucker Craft, I do think you will, as long as Love is on the field, I think you will be able to rely on him fairly consistently going forward. And then these guys in the middle here, Trey McBride dealing with an injury, he'd probably be kicking around if he wasn't hurt this week, maybe a
For
little
sure.
higher. And then there's like even trade rumors about Mark Andrews, which if that happens, then Isaiah Likely will probably maybe be a little more consistent than he has been. Um, so yeah, I'm intrigued. I want Brock Bowers to take another step forward. That would be fun. But yeah, I mean, these are the names we expected, the Jake Fergusons of the world, Dalton Kincaid, Freiermuth, like you said, and Kittle. Those guys will hang around. So I do think we've found it. I just think maybe they need to heat up a little bit, but I think these are gonna be the names probably going forward.
Right. Yeah. I mean, definitely can see some resurgence, man. That Detroit offense is just like,
Sammy ball game, yeah. It would be nice to see him make it back in the top 12 here.
yeah, maybe Demont like take a day off,
Yeah, chill out,
back
man.
up a little bit. But it's crazy hearing you say that about Mark Andrews because yeah, the snap percentage dipped down to 33% in week 3. It's still under 50% in week
hmm
4. So,
I mean, it
yeesh.
wouldn't be that crazy. I mean, like I get he's been a Raven this whole time, but like it wouldn't be bananas to see him get shipped out at some point, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Like
he
it
should go to
just
the Chargers. He could take Hayden Hurst's job again.
there you go. That would be fun.
Be fun.
Well,
Well,
go ahead.
tight ends, what are you gonna do?
I don't know. I don't know what you're gonna do. Hope and pray that Trey McBride comes back, I guess, if you're me. I have him in too many leagues now.
Yeah, definitely need that.
But we're gonna hit you with a new little segment here. It is our statistical insight segment. Basically, just some numbers, a little bit of nerd numbers that we wanted to look at. Both of us kind of took a different approach on this one, and kind of leaning into the disappointing of the tight ends. For the last 3 seasons, I have been told, and the world has been told, that you have to draft wide receivers and you have to do no running back drafts and all this stuff. And we've talked about it. Wide receivers are all the rage, and the passing game is all the rage, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh
Except
yeah.
that this year it seems like not so much. And I kind of wanted to dig into those numbers and see if that was really the case or if maybe we were just expecting too much. Because like you look at guys like Garrett Wilson, Tyreek Hill, Puka obviously is hurt, Cooper Kupp's hurt, Adams, the mainstays of the wide receiver rooms are not really living up to their names at the moment. And I wanted to take a look at the top 12 right now and kind of see how they stack up through the top 12 of 2023 through 4 weeks.
Okay.
So if we look at 2023, there were three players, three wide receivers who already had over 100 points. That was Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen, and Tyreek Hill. There were also three more with over 90 points. That was Puka Nacua, Stephon Diggs, and Devontae Adams. Two guys with over 80, Nico Collins and AJ Brown. And then there were only two guys in the top 12 that were below 70 points, and that was 11 and 12, and that was Amon-Ra St. Brown and Devonta Smith. If you look at the 24 top 24 now, or the top 12 in 2024, there are no wide receivers with over 100 points yet, and there are only two. that have over 90, and that's Malik Neighbors and Nico Collins. Um, no other wide receivers in the top 12 have over 80 points, and only five of them have over 70. That's Justin Jefferson, Jaden Reed, Chris Godwin, Jawan Jennings, and DK Metcalf. And Jennings, two guys in particular there, Jennings and Jaden Reed, have like two really big games and then two fairly quiet games, with Jennings coming on as people have gotten hurt. So if you look at the total points of the top 12 comparatively, in 2023 it was 897, and in 2024 we're sitting at or sorry, let me flip that. It was 1,027 in 2023 and 897 in 2024. So it's a pretty big jump in terms of total numbers. So it really has been down. And then I wanted to just quickly throw out the top 12 running backs, and compare them to the wide receivers, because as of now, they're actually outscoring the top 12 wide receivers 939 to 897.
Ooh.
So this whole no running back thing here, maybe not applying so far this year, because compared to last year, the wide receivers were beating out the top 12 running backs 1,027 to 881. So there was a significant jump there, and now it's kind of evened a little bit back out. Now, we'll have to see if that continues, where these defenses are maybe choke holding these offenses a little bit, and teams are relying more on the rushing game. But I don't know. I just thought that was interesting that after three straight years of like you have to go wide receivers are kind of stumbling out of the gate a little bit, and a lot of the like first round wide receivers are the guys that are stumbling out of the gate outside of like Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, yeah, it's the high value guys that you're going all in on and just kind of tanking your whole
Hmm.
season. And it's kind of sad to see it. It's I don't know. I never really felt too good about going wide receiver, you know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
But everyone's doing it these days,
Hmm.
and damn, it's clear that you're getting burnt. It's a nice landscape for running back truthers though. So
Yeah.
hopefully you stayed with your gut on that and weathered the storm. Because what you're saying is
Well,
true. I
y-
mean,
yeah, I mean, when you can get Nico Collins in the fourth round and Malik Neighbors in the fifth round, you might as well try to get a running back in the first couple.
yeah, or like Chris Godwin and
Chris Godwin, yeah.
I don't know, all the other guys I liked late didn't really pan out. Calvin Ridley hasn't hit where he needed to.
Mm,
Yeah. My boy Terry McLaurin's heating up though, I
yeah,
tell you.
truth.
So, but yeah, I mean, we don't always discuss what we're going to talk about ahead of time, but sometimes it just marries up. This was one of those times because I'm getting into the
Mm,
quarterback play, and kind of just some questions, some disappointment. A lot of people are talking about like the scoring's down from past years and things like that. And it really is, but I wondered, is it really like statistically are the quarterbacks disappointing or what are we doing? So I pulled up a bunch of things and what a quarterback is not doing is also what a wide receiver's not doing. So it's going to be interesting to kind of look at some of these stats over the past couple of years. But just looking at through 4 weeks, how many quarterbacks have over 1,000 yards?
mm-hmm,
And so far in 2024, we got five of them. You
mm,
got Gino, Purdy, Dak, CJ Stroud, and Jared Goff. So good job, guys.
mm.
That's a nice number to look at. Five. Compared to last year, after 4 weeks, you had 10 guys. So twice
Wow.
as many
Mm,
over 1,000 yards. Yeah. In 2022, it was 14 guys
wow.
through 4 games had over 1,000 yards, and we're looking at five right now.
Jeez.
So yeah, the air game has changed out, man. And I don't know. Another thing to look at is just like attempts,
Mm-hmm,
and the previous few seasons, there's been 17 quarterbacks that had 130 attempts or more, and we're at 10 this year. So almost half as many. So they're not throwing the ball. They're not having the success in the the yardage, obviously, that goes along with those extra attempts. And it's starting to hit them in the fantasy numbers.
Mm.
In 2022, the top 10 quarterbacks were averaging 89 points
Wow.
at this point in the season through 4 games. And last year it was 83 points, and then now we're cooking at 77. So 12 points, 3 points
Wow.
a week drop over the past 3 years. Um, it's kind of a big deal, and something that I looked at got me thinking when the passing volume is down, the yardage through the air is down. But like we've definitely seen more rushing, right?
Hmm.
We have. So in 2022, at this point in the season, through 4 games, there were only 5 guys that had over 100 rushing yards, quarterbacks, right?
Hmm.
And now, 2023, there were 9 over 100.
Hmm.
And this year, we have 10 quarterbacks over 100 rushing yards. So the number
Wow.
has doubled over the past 3 years, but it's not equaling fantasy success because we saw those numbers going down. So that's just something to consider. I also was like, hey, what's the quality of these quarterbacks? It's like there's a bunch of kind of lower tiered pedigree, whatever you want to call it, like draft capital type guys coming in. So I looked into that a little bit, and it's kind of interesting. It blew my mind that we have 8 starting quarterbacks that were number one picks. It's kind of, I didn't think it was like 25%, but
Hmm.
it is, yeah. And not all of them are doing great. Like most of them kind of struggling. You got Caleb Williams, kind of discussed him. Bryce
Hmm.
Young, no joke there.
Woof.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence, like not going great so far this year. Um, Joe Burrow, he's doing all right. And then you got Kyler and Baker Mayfield. And then you got to get all the way to Jared Goff to get over 1,000 yards on one of these guys. So, and then you got Matthew Stafford. So only one of these number one overall guys so far this season has that 1,000 yards.
Wow.
So a little bit of a struggle. And then if you look at guys that are drafted, second rounders, we do have a couple of them trying to make a case. You got Will Levis, and then the rest are kind of, different kind of breed. Andy Dalton was a second rounder, Derek Carr, Geno Smith, and Jalen Hurts. So it's kind of hard to pin down an opinion of those guys because that's a pretty broad situation. But yeah, if you keep rolling through, you got Malik Willis getting meaningful snaps. That's off an injury situation. And then Jacoby Brissett is starting for New England. That is going pretty poorly. So those are your third round guys. You got Dak and Kirk Cousins, fourth rounders represent. And then it gets really dicey with Gardner Minshew of the sixth, and then Skylar Thompson
Woof.
coming at the seventh has already been replaced by Tyler Huntley, and then you got Brock Purdy, which whatever, Brock, do you, go ahead and be that guy. So I don't know. I thought, are we getting sketchy quarterback play because they're kind of digging deep in the pool, or what the deal is? And I don't know. I was kind of surprised to see it's just mostly first round draft picks. It's just kind of a down year,
Mhm.
and some of the guys you'd really expect to be doing well just really aren't doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a bummer if you ask me. I was excited, but you got like guys like Justin Herbert in the bottom 10 of the PFF grades.
Wow.
It's just it's not going
It's
great for
not
some
great.
reason. Yeah, yeah, you got Anthony Richardson and Will Levis throwing 6 picks so far this year.
It's
That's
tough.
not, it's not great, but if you look back at the past 3 years, there's been 2 guys throwing 6 picks each of those years, but these guys are throwing, for 1,000 yards, they're throwing a ton of passes. These
Yeah.
dudes are parked under 700 yards throwing 6 picks. They're not doing their teams any favors. It's
Mm-mm.
just getting a little sloppy out there.
Yeah, the Richardson thing is interesting because like that's not what he was doing last year. Like I understand it was a small sample size, but like that was what everyone was so excited about is that he wasn't making these weird decisions. He wasn't I mean, he was the inaccuracy was there to be sure. That I mean, that's just to me, that's just what you're gonna have to deal with Richardson. But I do feel like it was even worse this year. So hopefully he can kind of work back into that. I don't know that I feel the same way about Levis. Like I think Levis just might be who he is. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
that's going nowhere.
yeah, I don't I like it. It's kind of disappointing because I like the big arm and we saw him throw 4 touchdowns to DeAndre Hopkins or whatever it was last year, and you wanted that potential to rise. But both these guys are kind of sketchy, and both of them were kind of like guys we thought might kind of push into the at least Richardson push into the top 5 of quarterbacks, and then Will Levis might hang around startable territory. So it's been weird. I think the defenses have finally found a way to catch up to all these offenses, at least right now. And then you got guys like Patrick Mahomes, who's been fairly terrible when it comes to fantasy, especially where you would have had to grab him. So yeah, it's a bad year for quarterbacks, and hopefully they can get it going. But I'm hyped that the running game is back, I guess.
Yeah, man, we just have to just pivot to the RDR running back draft
We
research.
we've been the truthers this whole time, and yeah.
We were
Um,
right.
we were right, and you were all wrong, all of you wide receiver people. No.
You heard it here first.
Alrighty, well, so that was our statistical insight. That one will be coming back. It's more of a just kind of general look at what we're thinking about on the weekly basis. But now we're gonna hit you with a quick little week 5 preview. We both took 3 games that we wanted to talk about briefly and kind of talk about what we're excited to see from them. And I'm gonna start with the Bears and Panthers game. This one to me is interesting. The Bears obviously have won back-to-back weeks, still looking fairly meh on offense, but like starting to heat up a little bit. Obviously, Swift had a big game. And if Caleb Williams can kind of build off that, we're good. But I really want to talk about Chuba Hubbard in this game. He's quietly having a great start to the year. He's the RB 15 right now, and that's with a 1.4 point game in week 1. He's had over 20 points in back-to-back weeks against weak rushing matchups, in terms of like good matchups for him. And week 2, he didn't have that many points, but he was banging out 6 yards a carry. And that was with Bryce Young still. And so like that he's been pretty good. And the Bears surprisingly have been weak against the run so far, allowing 18th in rushing yards and 20th in rushing TDs. I'm really intrigued to see if Chuba can continue this success, because he's going to be helping a lot of people, maybe a lot of those zero RB drafters,
Yeah.
because he has been really, really good. And I kind of look forward to seeing if that can continue. And I think it will continue against the Bears team, that hasn't really looked that bad. And on the flip side, um, uh, the Panthers defense has been horrendously bad. So could this be an opportunity for Caleb Williams to kind of step it up? Although one of the things working on the Panthers defense is J.C. Horn. So are they going to lean back to that rushing game? Can Swift repeat another awesome week where he's the focal point of the offense against a bad Panthers defense? I kind of think he might. So we could see like 2 pretty decent running back performances coming out of this one game.
Yeah, that would be pretty interesting. I mean, the Chuba thing really got me pretty pumped. I'm jazzed to see where that goes. But I don't know, man. I still wait for Caleb just to figure it out, and
Hmm.
then we could see. Like that's what I want to see, right?
Oh,
That's
for
what we all
sure.
want to
That's
see.
what everybody, yeah, we want to see Caleb be the guy. Well, I mean, maybe not me personally as a Packers fan, but we
Yeah,
want to
all
see,
but those 2 games of the year. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha,
that's fair.
gotcha.
We want to see Caleb be the guy that we thought he could be, and that would be exciting. But I do think it'll be fairly um um My goodness, I'm so sorry. I'm so tired. Fairly balanced this week
Uh,
still. And they're going to rely on the running game against a bad Panthers defense.
yeah, that Panthers defense, it's like, yeah, it's just a open door to the end zone if as long as you don't go through the air and avoid horn. But yeah, that should be a pretty exciting game. I'm kind of excited for the Washington Cleveland game.
Mm,
I guess I'll probably just pick the Washington game every
I
week.
mean,
I've
you
been,
bet.
yeah, I've been a closet Commanders fan this whole time. So we'll just keep it rolling. Terry finally getting some love. But I'm excited to see what they can do. They're right now they're third in points scoring, and Cleveland is doing pretty decent as far as like defensively. They always have been. But they are allowing, five rushing touchdowns this season, which is a pretty high number.
Uh-huh.
And Cleveland or Washington's number one for rushing touchdowns with 10. Obviously, that comes down to the quarterback one, Jaden Daniels getting it done on the ground. So I want to
Mhm.
see if he can do that against a little more aggressive defensive front this week and see just kind of if they have another dimension to that game. Like I said, Terry's been heating up. He's the wide receiver 25. So we'll see. I really just want to see Daniels get in his groove, balance the
Mhm.
rushing with the passing, try to keep the rushing in the red zone only. But at the same time, man, like um, Robinson is doing pretty well. He's
Mhm.
at the running back 14 at the moment. So it just feels like Washington's firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
And, yeah, they're not doing well defensively though. They're allowing the 20, they're 25th in points against, so not the greatest. And Cleveland is not putting up a ton of points. So I want to see if they can activate something here. Jerome Ford is kind of like hit or miss, a little bit banged up, but somehow Jerry Judy is outperforming Amari Cooper. So maybe Watson can get something going because Washington is really not really putting a lid on too much as far as the defense goes. They're allowing 10 passing touchdowns this year, which
Mhm.
is that's a pretty high number. So just want to see Cleveland kind of start firing on a few cylinders, but I
Mhm.
don't know. Just want to watch Washington's offense play, I guess, is where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, Jaden Daniels is the best part of this game, and he's the best part of the week sometimes so far.
Yeah.
And he is going to be electric, I imagine. I don't see the Browns really stopping that offense from churning. Deshaun Watson like quietly had a pretty decent game last week. Like I know they lost and seemed frustrating, especially against a Raiders team that didn't have their two best players on the field. But if he can build on that, like you're saying, the Commanders' defense isn't that great. So maybe they can get a little juice going. Maybe they can start to utilize some of their offense, and then he's not going to play this week, but Nick Chubb is practicing, which
Hmm.
is just makes my heart sing. I love Nick Chubb, so I want to see him back on the field. But yeah, I'm intrigued about this game. But I kind of have a sneaking suspicion that the Commanders might put on another excellent performance and kind of dog walk the Browns this week.
Should be that.
Keeping it in the NFC East, I want to talk about the Giants and the Seahawks matchup we got coming up. Kenneth Walker is having an absurd season, which is something both of you and I kind of discussed coming into the year that he would have a good year. Four touchdowns in two games. He missed two games already with that oblique injury, but it had three last week and one in week one. 180 rushing yards over those two games as well. I feel like he's going to dominate a Giants defense. That's going to give him quite a bit of chances. I mean, um, the Vikings, Commanders, Browns, and Cowboys, which is the teams that the Giants have played, do not have a rusher like Kenneth Walker, and I feel like they were still able to kind of run the ball. decently well. But the weakness of this Giants defense is actually the secondary. They're 14th in yards allowed and 20th in touchdowns allowed. So I'm kind of hoping that Jackson Smith and Jigba can take another step forward. He has been fairly like inconsistent, but not in terms of targets. He has 33 targets through 4 games. 16 in week 2 and 12 last week. So two big games and then two kind of middling games. But I mean, he really is taking over as a main target share in that offense. And I think this could be the perfect week to really have him go off and have another heavy week where he's heavily involved. And then flipping to the Giants side, if Neighbors can't play in this game, the Giants are cooked. They're
Oh, for sure.
absolutely cooked.
Cooked
They
regardless.
might be, yeah, I was about to say they might be cooked regardless, but we saw the Lions explode against the Seahawks. But the Giants just simply do not have the firepower, nor the quarterback, nor the offensive line to do that. And if Neighbors isn't playing, this could get ugly. Like this could be a really bad game for the Giants, in my opinion. And the Seahawks could really, really look like a big bounce back candidate after that Lions loss.
Yeah, you got to look at it like this, man. I mean, the Giants, great, good for you. But Seattle, they were like, that was Gino's best game ever on Monday night, and they were fighting to be 4-0, and they lost a tough game to a tough opponent.
Mhm.
And there's like nothing better than a get right game against the Giants, I think, right now. So, I think that they're just going to keep it going, especially dude Walker is just walking all over people.
Dude.
Doak Walker the third is what we call him in this neighborhood, and he's bringing it and he's bringing the heat. I hope Neighbors can get back up there though. That way, like this game is viewable.
There's something to watch.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be rough, but I don't know, man. I'm rolling into the Jets Vikings game. Talk
Ooh.
about 4-0 teams.
You sound
Um
like you're from London.
oh shit. They're going all the way. Oh, that's good. I'm glad you said that, man. Those 8:30 a.m. games are my wife's favorite.
Mm.
Uh yeah, nothing like breakfast with football. I love it. Bring it on. So I need to see the Vikings. They've won against the Niners, so they've played some good defenses,
Hmm.
but I need to see them do it consistently. They're what they're doing right now is nuts.
Hmm.
Darnold's the quarterback four. Justin Jefferson's the wide receiver three, and then Aaron Jones is at running back seven,
Wow.
and they're nasty, man.
Yeah.
Um, they're, I mean, they're number one in passing touchdowns with 11, and they're playing the Jets, who have only allowed two passing touchdowns. Like that's an insanely low number.
It really is.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a clash. It's a pure clash. They're 31st against passing yards, so like they're locking it down, whereas the Vikings, their passing yards aren't that high. It's only 10th, but they're ready to roll. They're firing on all cylinders, and I think that we're going to see a pretty sweet game. The Vikings are allowing a lot of rushing yards, so they're 31st in that category. So maybe we can see some get right on the Brees
Mm.
deal.
That'd be nice.
But what I want to see, like, all right, so let's just talk about the Vikings defense. They're allowing a ton of rushing yards. They're not that great. Um, but they're doing a bunch of turnovers. They
Mm.
got 10 turnovers. It's second most in the league. They're allowing the fewest passing yards. So what I want to see some perseverance here with Aaron Rodgers, quarterback 18 right now. He's
Mm.
supporting the wide receiver 18, but it is Alan Lazard. No, it's not Garrett Wilson.
Oh
I need
my
to
goodness.
see the next level to that relationship, or what I would call entry level. Like, can we just do something right
Yeah.
here?
Hmm.
Brees, running back 13. I don't know. Might be his game to make it happen, but I want to see some strides in that passing game. It's getting a little bleak. It's getting a little hard to watch when the
Hmm.
Broncos can do stuff to you like that. So
Well,
I
and
don't know.
that's kind of what I'm concerned with. The Broncos' defensive line and pressure really got to Aaron Rodgers last week, and I mean the Vikings have been doing that to everybody all season, and so I'm a bit concerned that we might see the Vikings kind of clamp down on the Jets here, where even if the Jets can keep a lid on the Vikings offense, I don't know that the Jets offense is going to be able to move the ball unless they really just attack them with the run. And yeah, the Vikings are getting a lot of turnovers. They have 10. That's fair. They had five, though, last week against Green Bay. So that's kind of, might skew it just a tiny bit.
It's still
And
pretty good.
no, it's very good. But Rodgers famously, like, not really a guy that turns the ball over a lot. So you can't really rely on that necessarily against him. But I mean, I think there's a chance here that the Vikings kind of smack the Jets around, to be honest.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see it. I'm intrigued to see how Darnold does fare against this Jets defense. I do think it's going to be maybe a slower week for him, just because they are so good. But yeah, man, this is going to be an interesting game. And then the London games just always kind of get weird anyway.
Yeah, there's always something off about it, which
Hmm.
makes sense. Like we should not have to travel on an airplane for that long to do something you could do in your hometown, you know?
100%. Well, I'm gonna get into my actual like game that I'm probably the most excited about, and that is the Bills and Texans. And this first part is not a fantasy take, but I'm just really interested to see how the Bills bounce back from the absolute smacking that they took against the Ravens. Because the Bills were looking like one of the best teams in the league. Josh Allen was setting the world on fire. But now that they've been smacked by the Ravens, you got to take a look at their schedule and go, okay, well, they looked incredible, but they also played the Cardinals, who they only beat by 34 to 28, who just got dog walked by the Commanders. The Dolphins in the game where Tua got hurt,
Right.
and the Jags with kind of bum ass Trevor Lawrence right now. So then they ran into a buzzsaw and got smacked by the Ravens. So, like, how are they going to fare in this game against the Texans team who has looked good, but maybe not necessarily like set the world on fire the way we thought they would? But they have been moving the ball a lot and have been doing a lot right. And when you look at like the Bills defense, their strength is what the Texans offense is strong at. So they're great against the pass. The Bills defense are sixth in yards allowed, while the Texans are fourth in passing yards in the league. So there's a strength versus strength matchup if I've ever heard one. So I'm intrigued to see how this goes. But again, is that skewed for the Bills? Because Kyler Murray lit him up kind of. Then they had to deal with Skylar Thompson for half a game, and then Trevor Lawrence couldn't get anything going against them. And then even more so, the Ravens didn't even add to their passing numbers because they ran all over them for 271 yards. So it's not like it wasn't they got dominated in that game, but it didn't really add to their passing numbers. So is that sixth in yards allowed a real thing, or are the Texans going to just absolutely light them up? And honestly, that's kind of how I feel. I do think the Texans might be able to light them up a little bit, unless they decide to attack them on the ground, because the Bills' weakness, it seems like, has been stopping the run. I mean, you allowed 271 yards against them. Um, so I don't know if Joe Mixon is back and can be running the ball. I mean, maybe the Texans kind of go that route to attack this defense. Um, but if he's not in the game, they were pretty ineffective on the ground last week with Cam Akers in there. So I don't know if that's what they want to do if it's not Joe Mixon. And then even if Joe Mixon is back, how healthy is he? I don't know. But I think the Texans are going to be able to move the ball fairly consistently through the air on this Bills defense, despite the fact that the Bills defense looks like a strong passing defense. Nico Collins is on pace for over 2,000 yards, and I do not think he slows down this week. But I do think if Mixon is back, you could see that kind of limit the potential of Stephon Diggs and maybe Tank Dell.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen the news on Mixon if he's going to be part of this game or not. He's
He's
missed
day to day right now.
day to
Tank
day.
Dell seems like he's good to go, and then Joe
Nice.
Mixon is day to day as of the last I saw.
Yeah, but I mean, just talking about the Bills, you bring up some really strong points about their schedule and the teams that they've defeated and you know, what happened with the Ravens who needed to, make a stand with the skid they were having so far this year as well. But you look at the Bills and they get through this game and it softens up. I mean, it softens up in a big way. They got to worry about Seattle, Kansas City, Niners, and the Lions throughout the rest of the season. But the rest of it, I mean, they could easily win, 12 games and be feeling good without actually ever having to play anybody. So this is going to be definitely a season defining game for them. And when
Hmm.
it comes to like postseason, when you're playing real football, because if they give up this game to the Texans after, like you're saying, what Derrick Henry was just doing to him,
Hmm.
it kind of, yeah, it makes them less legitimate as far as being taken seriously going down the stretch. So that's uh that's going to be a good one.
I think so.
Um, I got to say, as far as being taken seriously, we got my matchup here. Homer alert, Homer alert. I got like all the undefeated teams in here, but Kansas City got to play New Orleans,
Hmm.
and somehow, Kansas City is 4-0 while they're playing the 2-2 Saints, who have scored the most points so far this year. They've got, second in rushing touchdowns with 9. That's pretty incredible. Their defense is playing very well. And yeah, they're allowing the sixth fewest points. So it's I don't know. It's anybody's kind of game. You got Rasheed's bang up here, and Mahomes is not really crushing it, as they say. He is the quarterback 15 on the year. There is no defined run game, like you're saying. Kareem
Hmm.
Hunt, 29, coming at you, just getting the work. It's kind of scary. Travis Kelsey, he is the tight end 12 all of a sudden, but we don't know what's coming out of him. So I'm just looking for the Chiefs to do what they got to do. And then for me, I'm loving watching Kansas City's defense. They're just killing it, and I want to see what happens when Alvin Kamara and the passing game for New Orleans comes to town. I want to see if they can do something about it. New Orleans is supporting, the quarterback 4 and Derek Carr, the RB1 and Kamara, and then they've got the wide receiver 19 and 21 on their team. So this is a pretty stacked unit. And I think right now Kansas City's strength is the defense. So I'm really looking to see, can Mahomes pull 17 points out of his supporting cast right now? And can the Kansas City defense keep the Saints below that 17 number? I'm pretty excited. I mean, there's numbers to go around as far as defensive and offensive and everything, but KC is only allowed 2 rushing touchdowns, and New Orleans is scoring primarily through the ground game. So it's going to be a pretty sweet clash.
Hmm.
Whereas New Orleans somehow only has allowed 1 passing touchdown
Wow.
all season. So it's going to be like it's going to be a good game. I'm pretty excited about that Monday night. So,
Yeah, it's going to be a defensive matchup. I actually kind of think the Saints could win this game.
oh,
I
for
mean,
sure.
with Rice being out and then the two defenses playing, my only worry is I'm concerned that Derek Carr will not know what to do against this Chief defense who has been able to lock everyone down for what, 2 years in a row now.
Yeah,
Um,
Carr's slipping right now. So,
yeah, Carr had those big couple weeks, and now he's kind of going back to where we expect Derek Carr to be. So I don't know. I think this will be a good game, maybe not the most exciting of games. If you're not like a defensive minded person, I think it's going to be fairly low scoring, and I definitely don't think the Chiefs cover the spread, whatever the spread is. Um, but yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how Mahomes gets this offense going without Rice. and seeing maybe Kareem Hunt in a week two action, or second week action for him. And then yeah, the Saints. I mean, you got to get. I mean, Rashid Shaheed is cool, and then Taysom Hill. Once he went out, they seem to not be able to know what to do, which is alarming.
Right.
But I want to see Chris Olave get more involved and become more the number one guy that we want him to be. And I'm not sure that this happens against a game Kansas City defense.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens, man. It's 5.5 points, Kansas City. So
Yeah, I'm taking the
that's
Saints there.
yeah, that's it's gonna be a good one, man. You should come check it out. I know it's in New Orleans,
Oh, okay.
so I'll meet you there, I guess.
Sounds good. Well, you want to wrap us up with some box score boomers?
Oh my God, do I? Do I ever? Yeah, of course. It was a good week for the college ball. I watched a ton of it and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. So I'm coming at you with fresh eyes. I'm gonna do a little different, you know. I'm gonna add a quarterback in the mix, and he's not a secret. People know this guy's name. I'm putting in Jalen Melroe, quarterback, Alabama. And the reason he's getting in there is not necessarily quarterbacky reasons. So let me get through the game. It was a crazy game. They won 41 to 34 against Georgia. And I'm sure everyone's fully aware of what happened here, but it went from like 28 to 0. Alabama being up to them being down with 2.5 minutes left in this game. So it was kind of a wild roller coaster of a game. And Melrose had 374 yards, which was sixth on the week, if you're tracking that. And it was two touchdowns, and he had an interception. But the action for him was on the ground. He had 117 yards and two scores on 16 carries.
Hmm.
And so I'm looking at this guy as a dual threat, kind of the best at it at the moment. He is on the PFF big board at number 58, which I thought was kind of a little disrespectful. Fifth listed quarterback on the big board going into next year. He's a junior, 6'2", 225. And of course, he's qualified for a Boomer episode. He is an Alabama quarterback. Um, but yeah, he has 8 rushing touchdowns this
Wow.
year. Yeah, and 12 scores on the ground last year, over 500 rushing yards last year, and he has 52 carries through 5 weeks.
Hmm.
So he's really getting it done. Last year as a starter, you know, he was pretty decent in the pass game, only 2,800 yards, but it was 23 touchdowns and 6 picks. So he's got potential there. Maybe needs a little work on the passing, but I think he's a pretty good leader and a dual threat quarterback. I think he's got some potential. So, not
Okay.
the first Alabama quarterback named Jalen to come through around here. But the other guy I have is DJ Giddens, who's a running back for the Wildcats, K-State, not far from here,
Hmm.
and they had a big win over Oklahoma State. It was 42 to 20, and he rushed 15 times for 187 yards. So that's 12 and a half yards per carry, only one score. But it was a pretty good week for him. He definitely didn't have the top running back week. There was Ashton Genty, who
Hmm.
had 259 and 4 touchdowns, but I've already discussed him. So
Yeah.
that was an insane game to
Absurd.
watch, though. I was watching that entire game. It was beautiful. That blue turf got me again. But Giddens with K-State he's the 18th running back on the PFF big board at 161 overall. He is a junior, 6'1", 212. And, you know, he plays in the Big 12, so Power 5 will give him definitely an eye when it comes to rookies next year. And looking at last year, he had a 1,200-yard season with 10 scores, and he does enough catching in 29 catches last year. Good enough to know he could be utilized in that way. He's not like a super pass catching back, hasn't done a lot of that work this year at all. But he does have some catches on his resume. So, yeah, those are your two guys, box score booming this week.
Nice. All right. I'm excited to check these guys out. I saw the Ryan Williams highlights, not so much the quarterback for Alabama, so I'll have to go back and watch his stuff. But yeah, exciting stuff. This running back class could be really, really spicy after a weaker one in 2024.
Yeah, we
So
gotta get Jonathan Brooks on the football field, man.
yeah, that'd be nice. It'll be nice to see him. But until we do see him and until you see us, we've been Rough Draft Research. You've been the audience, and we'll see you next time.
Hell yeah. Take care, y'all.
I took a lease